Manchester City gets the job done yet again, and that fifth Premier League title is only a few matches away. At least that's how it seems. They played against Fulham today. Let's talk with Janusz Michallik about it. Janusz, what was the most important thing that Pep Guardiola and his team had to get done today, as they did with those 3 points?
Well, I think, coming back from such a high and such an important game from Arsenal, you can understand that just a couple of days later, when you go away, away to London, playing Fulham, you've got to get the attention, concentrations level, and the intensity up. And I suspect that because of some of the changes he had to make, which he would have made anyway, and maybe just psychological level of being in the game. He always says that players are always in it, but as we all know, that's impossible. That just coaches speak. So, I mean, it was always going to be an uncomfortable game, regardless who they played, because obviously the game Arsenal pretty much meant the title. And the idea was not to go to waste and not to drop any points. And they did that. Cruz didn't really play with the sort of intensity that you expect, but I don't think they'll worry about it because they're top of the table at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Not much to worry about on the point side, but let's talk about Kevin De Bruyne, who wasn't there. Yeah, as you said, an expected kind of rotation of players today, but Kevin seems to be out due to an injury. How much can this become a problem for Guardiola, thinking of the next few matches that they have?
Well, speaking of that, right? I mean, I've heard him say, listen, I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you that when he says discomfort, it just probably means that, look, we've had some big games coming up. There's still West Ham and Leeds, and of course, he's probably even thinking about Real Madrid. So just being proactive, I am 100% sure that Kevin De Bruyne is going to be playing in that biggest game against Real Madrid. Who knows? Maybe some minutes even in the next couple Premier League games, but that's just making sure that the rotation is there. Bernardo Silva, which would be probably a natural replacement for him, just play like 6 or 7 minutes. So this is making sure that the key players are absolutely 100% for the biggest matches of the season. Having said that, we've seen even today in a game like this, where they probably playing in neutral gear, I would say, by their standards, how much they miss De Bruyne, his drive, his vision, everything that he brings. Because there were moments in that game, right? The game was a little bit slower. Kevin De Bruyne would not allow that because that's his nature. He would drive that team. As I've said it before, and I always feel like I have to put an asterisk there, but people know me by now probably. In the biggest matches, you can play and win without Erling Haaland, but you cannot play and win without Kevin De Bruyne, or at least have a chance. I mean, I think you understand what I mean. This is how important he is for me still by a country mile. No, scratch that. Maybe not a country mile, but he is still the most important player on that team.
Yeah, and it's so crazy to hear you say that, but maybe not so crazy because we're seeing these amazing stats from Erling Haaland again, who scores again in the third minute, who's making history yet again in the Premier League. It's 34 goals, it's 50 total in all competitions, and it seems like Janusz, there's no stopping Haaland. What did you think of his performance today?
Yeah, I think it was good. I mean, what he had a couple chances as well. Obviously, there was, as I mentioned, it was a changed lineup. I mean, that goal came in, penalty itself was, I think, 90 seconds in, even though the goalkeeper read his intentions rather early. I mean, the manner in which he puts away these penalties is incredible. So that's a good thing because we all know, even with Manchester City in the past, wasn't always automatic, even with Kun Aguero and whoever else was taking them. So I think it's good to know that you have a player that's pretty much automatic, although he's missed as well. So I think that his performance was good enough. It looked like a training match for a while. I don't know if it's taking things for granted. In that, in the way that Fulham came back, it was a miscommunication there between Akanji and Ruben Dias because they switched men. I don't know why. Otherwise, that goal isn't scored, right? In the build-up as well. But I think everybody always felt that Manchester City were going to find a way. So yes, as much as I've said everything about Kevin De Bruyne, I mean, Haaland with these numbers, he will be the reason if Manchester City win the Premier League, who knows, FA Cup and maybe even Champions League, because he's definitely a plan B and C.
Yeah, when it comes to juggling, Pep Guardiola sure has a lot of help, not only in his starting 11, but in the bench. And speaking of those changes that we saw today, one of them, of course, being Julian Alvarez. What did you think of his performance, Janusz, today with that opportunity to shine, and he did with that goal?
Yeah, you just feel for him, right? I mean, because what do you do with somebody like Erling Haaland when he puts 50 goals on the season in all competition? And yet, I mean, the bottom line is it's impossible to compete with this level of quality and depth. It's just impossible. That's why obviously Arsenal has put a great fight, and I think we're all thankful for it. Watching Premier League because we thought it was going to be Liverpool, and then and then Arsenal at least gave us 3/4 of a season of a fight. It's still not over, but I think we all agree that Manchester City are going to go from strength to strength. You look at Julian Alvarez, who's got what, 8 goals in the Premier League. This is a wonderful, wonderful strike in this one as well. He's a World Cup winner, scored 4 goals in the World Cup. He's so young. But I think he understands what this team is all about. I think all these players, for the most part, understand that being on this team, you are going to get plenty of chances. And, in the meantime, you're going to come out of this experience, however long it will be, with number of trophies. So it's a wonderful team to be, because I think Pep Guardiola is one thing, and that is a manager who really holds players accountable. And if you drop off even a little bit, and for most of us, it's not even a drop off sometimes, in goes somebody else, and all these players are challenging each other. So if you look at somebody like Julian Alvarez, I mean, think about it. What must he be thinking in terms of, where's the bar, where's the ceiling where I need to be when you have, and I don't know because obviously Julian Alvarez can play a little bit deeper, right? He kind of sort of that De Bruyne role, not really, but could. But he's got to be thinking, my ceiling is Erling Haaland, and that means 34 goals in the Premier League, 50 goals in the season. So that's just incredible. But he himself, I think he delivers every time he steps on the pitch, and he did that today as well.
It's so amazing and so valuable to have that internal competition, because without even having to do that work specifically, it comes out as a positive result there for Pep Guardiola, as you say, that bar being set so high with Erling Haaland, and that's such big example. Let's talk about the next.
By the way,
Yeah,
there's competition and there's competition, because I mean, it's not like two strikers. One has 18, 20, the other one has 9 or 10 and a couple big games, right? I mean, this guy got 50 goals. I mean, it's just crazy.
yeah, if we put it in a Formula One conversations, he's about a minute ahead of everybody else, and it's kind of impossible, it seems, right now to catch him even on the same team. Janusz, we were talking about a little bit of these changes for Pep Guardiola, not only for this match, but thinking of these next few matches. You mentioned, of course, that FA Cup final, still the work they have to do in the Premier League to have it in their pocket. And of course, those two matches against Real Madrid in the semifinals of the UEFA Champions League. Where can Pep see where he can rest his most important players for those most important games?
In every game, he's going to do it. I mean, the big team is going to be against Real Madrid. So next 2 matches, just look for that little bit of a rotation, right? It's not going to be crazy. I think we all know pretty much to a T who's going to play against Real Madrid. Bernardo Silva is going to be there. Riyad Mahrez, again, a very good game today. I mean, he was outstanding without scoring, I thought, in particular in the first half. Scores 3 goals against Sheffield United in the FA Cup. Next game, guess what? He's on the bench, right? So I think he's going to get his time in the games against West Ham and Leeds. Bernardo Silva today and Phil Foden. Phil Foden is very important, because that gives Pep Guardiola another super quality player, because he's been injured. He's been working himself into a full fitness as well. But I think, if you look at these next 2 games, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised if he's going to get more and more time. And who knows, he may be at 100% in those big time matches, meaning, of course, the Champions League games. However, against Real Madrid, if they get through, he's going to be available, barring any further injury, and then FA Cup final against Manchester United as well. So I don't think it's an issue, because, as I said, I mean, the level of quality and depth is quite unbelievable. Not only that, you have so many players that can play different roles. Pep Guardiola changes systems, as we see 3 here. In the big matches in the recent past, he's played 4 in the back because he wanted Bernardo Silva to play against the big name players at Bayern Munich, at Arsenal, the white players. I suspect again you're going to see that back 4 when they play against Real Madrid because of Vinny Jr. And Camavinga and all the other players that they have. So I don't worry about this. If there are no major injuries for Manchester City, this is great time for Pep Guardiola because he can finally let some players play. I mean, they're probably begging him, knocking at on his door every day. Why am I not playing more and more? I think you're going to see some of those players, and I don't like to call them fringe because that's almost unfair. Because they're all would be playing in the starting lineups in just about every team. I think he's going to do that. He's going to rotate, make sure that discomfort that De Bruyne feels, if it means that he won't play the next couple matches, so be it.
Yeah, and it's one of those problems that every coach, every manager wants to have, that Pep Guardiola has in this moment, with those players knocking at his door, with so many options available and having to make those important decisions with such an impressive depth that he has in his hands right now. And that in his hands could mean 3 titles for the citizens this season.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.